So I joined my sister's world in order to build a base for her. Now, I did bring my materials mostly, though I've been playing with her. We just reached the lower depths, and I am building this in the Western Halls. Westgate Fortress is what I'm calling it, just like the one I built for me. Starting out with the basics, and someone asked, hey, if you ever build another one of your bases, could you show us what you do? Now her base, all the layouts are slightly different depending on where you are, and hers had one feature, this monument to the ancestors in the middle. One of my first bases had this, though it was located on the side. This is as soon as you enter from the hall, and you'll notice that this hall, which is one of the two pillar resource rooms, is centrally located, and otherwise it's clear. And so I cleared out the debris. I put in a gatehouse. Now her gatehouse alignment, I couldn't center the door, but I could center two doors. And so I've done this before. It's not a big deal. It just gives them an extra place to beat on. And I've never had this double door fail. In fact, even with a troll, only one of the doors would fail if you just completely ignore them, because they toss rocks. Now, I did line the walls. Not all the walls in these rooms, in my experience, support. And so, as I laid out the floor, which I tried not to use too much of my vertical space, I've been laying it down, making sure there's a foundation under everything. There are little niches that don't always fill in. Sometimes I try to fill them in if I think they're going to be a problem, like that one. But these little corners are incredibly difficult to get sometimes, and so sometimes I just leave them empty. Yeah, that one's going to be a pain. It just depends where it lines up. Now, I am lining all of the walls with adamant stout walls, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. Notice that I'm aligning my brick so that it fully covers the area. I don't leave a gap, and I'm trying to get as tight as possible. So it will build that foundation. Same thing here on the sides. You want it to be as tight as possible in alignment, and you wanted to make sure that there's a foundation under all the gaps. And it's okay to push it under the wall if it'll go. Now this one probably won't. Oh no, it did. If not, you fill them with singles. Don't try to overlap tiles, because then it will not create a foundation. That's been my experience, and it's pretty consistent. Not to mention, with resources, it's pretty resource intensive to do this, but it gives a nice clean level flat surface that you can build on. So sometimes I'll lay down this, and then I'll go in on the side, and it should snap. There we go. You see it put down the foundation. That's what you want to see. Just make sure to not overlap anything, because if you overlap, it'll get support. The foundation comes in when the tile needs support and there's an area below. I used to think it had to do with color. That was completely wrong on my part. Of course, it's not like there's documentation on this system, so it's kind of learn as you go. I'm going to have to move my hearth. Alright, let me do a few more of these. And you see the foundations there. That's good. Now let's say you get into a situation like this. You can't put this here. It won't create the foundation. So what you have to do is take out your single tiles, put in the foundation, because you'll see the foundation down there, and then continue. That's okay. Every once in a while I'll put one down and then realize, oh, I'm not being consistent. So I got into a situation like that and you're tempted to just overlap two tiles. Trust me, that's bitten me before. You don't want to do that. Put down a couple more of these. You can do it. Yeah. I'll fill that in with a single. So here's a case where I just did that to myself, because I couldn't fit that single in. So you just come back. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to put on the adamant walls. And you'll notice here I've overlapped them, because sometimes you cannot put in the wall properly, but you have to carry them over on the same plane. That when we build, the dots that we see on the ground are actually in 3 dimensions. We only see what's on the flat surface. But in reality, the snapping works in 3-dimensional space. I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, of course it does. That took me a while to figure out, actually, not being familiar with this type of game. So you want to build but continue the snapping. So I continued the wall building into this and behind this pillar or through this pillar. And then you want to, because you don't want it on different planes or snapping to a different grid. And sometimes this game will do that. It'll create a new grid, and then all of a sudden you're snapping to something and then things don't align and it loses its mind, and then everything's red and you're like, why is everything suddenly red? You've got to make sure it snaps to that same grid like that. And it might take a little finagling. These are hard because you want to make sure that they've snapped, but you can't really see it. There we go. The fact that it's up in the air is fine. There we go. Because you'll even all of that out later. That's in alignment now. Okay, I'm going to finish doing the floor and then the walls, and I'll come back and film a little bit. So here's an anomaly that you may encounter. I've encountered this a couple of times. So here's a rock, and if you place your granite floor over this area, it will not produce a foundation because of this rock. And if you try to destroy said rock, you can't. No matter what you do, or what direction you go from, or what tool you use. And so in this instance, my only recommendation is placing the small tiles, because that way you'll limit the lack of foundation to one area, and then you're going to have to remember the area. Oh. And you'll notice that there is a lack of foundation under 2 of those tiles, and I'll just have to remember that this area has got an anomaly. So when we place the next tile, it will have a foundation. Alright, so once the floors are done, you're going to want to even out the walls. Now, oh, where'd you come from? The spawns after you close off and seal in an area still happen. You're going to have to get used to that. At least around here it's not too bad. Anyway, alright, so you're going to have situations like this where when you put the walls on and they're even all the way around the room, just to make sure that you have a solid surface to drive your barriers into, you're going to hit little areas around the columns that aren't buildable. I noticed that the squiggly parts of the decoration on the bottom of the columns, you cannot build over all of them consistently. Some of them you can, others you can't. Have no idea why. With that said, you're going to want to build around them. So of course I built around them nice and even, but that offsets the walls. And so you're going to take and find an area where there's one high, put another one exactly that high, so it's twice as high, and then you're going to build around it. So the top, if you can see that, is nice and even at exactly 2 heights. And you're going to go all the way around the room to make sure that you will have a solid surface all the way around the room to build in. And you're going to hit areas that are a little more difficult than others to line up. It's just normal. But you're going to want that nice and even, because you're going to work off of that. Now that one's not quite even. That one is. Okay. Yes, I wasted a little material there. I seem to have plenty. struggle sometimes is very real. Alright, you're going to go around the entire room like this and make sure that the walls are exactly too high and that everything lines up flush. And it looks like I just lost that wall. Alright. I know that this is resource intensive and seems redundant. It's not always pretty, but it does give a much better consistent support on reload. What the world itself will support seems to vary depending on the area. Even similar objects don't always give the same level of support. And sometimes wasting a little material is the best way to accomplish something. Oh. Alright, I'll hit pause here and finish going around the room. Alright, so I started laying out the stairs in the very center of the room. And once you lay out the stairs, you can start doing the weaving pattern of the adamant barricades. Now, normally I would do a lot more arches and stuff like that, but because I'm in my sister's world, my character doesn't seem to remember all of the pieces, which is odd because I do see the sloped adamant pieces. I don't know why. So I can't use a lot of this fancy granite pieces. I'm going to have to figure out what triggers that. Now, we have not completed her game yet. We have not slain the dragon. We just got to the lower depths, so not quite there yet. But I am going to build the best base, strongest base I can with the granite barriers, and then we'll add the fancier stuff later. And so the first thing I need to do here is I'm going to mirror. I basically set the two 7-piece tunnels first, Y7, I like that number. And then I laid the this next to it. Let me see, where is it? Slightly inset just before there, so. Oh, I think some of mine fell down. I just destroyed a bunch of stuff. So I have to put the tunnels back. That's a bummer. Didn't realize I did that. Since I'm making this in multiple parts, I don't remember if I've said it or not, but when I took materials to my sister's world, I did use an add-on to bring larger quantities, stacks. I did not feel like logging in and out a billion times. Wasn't something that I felt like I needed to do. And so you will see that my inventory sometimes does have stacks that are larger, and that's why I did it. 6, 7, okay. Normally I don't use add-ons other than the pause add-on, but to be honest, logging in it, bringing large quantities of materials between worlds, logging in and out 100 times is not something that I particularly enjoy. Alright, animal, stop barricade. sure that didn't poke through. Doesn't look like it poked through. Good. I use the same pattern I described before in my other videos to extend things out. Here, then I switch angles to try to embed as far into the column as I physically can. And I know it went. No, on the other side it went out pretty far, actually. I just go back and forth to make sure I did attach it there. And I went clear to the other side of the column. I try to mirror things on each side with the same building technique. Usually does a decent job. Keeping things in alignment, and I know if it survives a reload on one side, it'll survive on the other. Now on this side, I have to continue it out to match. To there, and I will use. Sometimes when you put a crossbar on, it's easier to line this up because it snaps into place. There we go, all picked up. It's weird. My character remembered how to make a great hearth and other stuff, but some stuff not so much. Alright, so in alignment with that beam, I put in the next set of stairs, and it partially embeds, providing support. That looks correct. And I put a beam and then a second. provides a platform on which to put the smaller stairs, because this is literally a 1.5 floors high. The opening begins right at the end of there. This one wants to be difficult. Sometimes it's easier to get it from underneath. Depends on your view angle. Beautiful. Awesome. Now I wedged that one right into the center column, so it should provide a ton of support. And I want to see how big I can make this one. Oh, this one can almost extend completely out. Fantastic. Now that one was green-yellow, but yeah, it is not consistent. And I leave this open for almost the entire length except for the edge. Okay. Set a guide. That's where it was. That will not stay. Is it even? No, slight overhang. Okay. And that's it. I just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh. That will not do. We want it embedded in, and the solid color of the stone is the best. And don't forget about that cross support, because you definitely want to be able to get to that other column. So I will use one of these to help force. I don't know why that works in the system. But sometimes if you do that, you can get a really good connection that you couldn't 2 seconds before. There we go. I'll put a cross here. Oh, nope. And by doing that, you can easily connect into the pillar. Now that was solid color when I put it in. First time it didn't work, that time it did. Guess it doesn't matter as long as it works on a reload. Anyway, I'm going to do a little more of this and I will connect back. So, I'm obviously new at doing videos, and I thought the video recording well, and it did, and then I paused it overnight, came back the next day and continued it, hoping not to have to splice together the videos later, and I lost about 35 minutes because it only recorded audio and not video, which was disappointing. And so now I'm going to have to re-record the second part of this video. So the video is approximately, the first part was 33 minutes long, and I started on Saturday, and then I did about another 30 minutes on Sunday, and today is Monday, and all that afterward, about 40 minutes worth is wasted. So here's the outside door. I'll have to climb up there and take out that dirt. To my sister's base. We are at Westgate. I did illuminate the area. And I should tell you right up front, this entire build took me a little over 6 hours. It took approximately 3,000 adamant and 4,000 granite, and I padded both of those to make sure, since people wanted to know how much it took roughly so they would have enough. I did figure out why I was missing those advanced granite features. It was the star metal hammer. So the repair, if you look at your recipe list, this one, the star metal hammer right here, was what was missing. And as soon as I made it, all of them opened up for me. Now I did place some filigree around. You see I did a nice detail there. Now the adamant you can't really put anything on, but it is incredibly stable. I've logged in and out now a dozen times at this point, and nothing falls down. It might not be the prettiest, but it is sturdy. And because it is so open, I didn't have to use arches. I may add arches for decoration, but they are not necessary to keep this floor up. If you follow my instructions, line the walls, and take your time and drive in till you get solid connections to all the pillars and everything, and the walls, it is incredibly stable. So I did on the upper level, I'll show you there in a minute, make some changes. Let's walk through I added enhancements to the ancestors, though it makes it a little difficult to walk around. So I did add a few of those granite walls here to put up plaques, but leaving that metal exposed. I noticed people said online on Discord that the metal glints. See, you saw it and then it faded for no explained reason. It's noon. So it seems to come and go, just like the light on my helmet, my miner's helmet comes. See, now it's fading back in. No idea. I did make a small change to the stairs. I put up my normal piece of fence because everything's symmetrical. That fence identifies the side for the living quarters and storage. And so I will show you that. The entire front of my base on the first level right now is empty. I was going to put a small museum here for her like I have. It's kind of a neat feature, armory museum, and this is all possible storage. There's an incredible amount of space here, and it's just all empty right now. Now this is the bottom part of the brewery, which I'll show you the top part of. It is enough for 4 King's Brew, and I plan on building those as soon as we're complete, though right now we're only in the lower depths. So this is a change I made. I added a second set of stairs, so each side now has 2 stairs that go up to the next level. I did put down granite floor. It adds stability, I've noticed, and strength. And then I put the wood over it, so if you look very closely, you can see that there's granite with wood on top. It's a little wasteful on resources, but I'm telling you, it doesn't fall apart, and I really like that. Now I am going to put paneling on the walls. I wanted to show, as soon as you open up adamant, you can build this entire base other than the fancy walls. So you don't have to wait to the end game to build something like this. Now it'll be a little plainer, these little bases here for wall bases, and a little bit of the fancier filigree is of course not available till you get the star metal hammer. But if you transfer worlds, building the star metal hammer, if you bring resources with you, is the way to go. So I did go back to my main. I brought over a whole bunch of resources. Those of you that are looking at the screen that catch it, obviously I'm using an add-on. I don't like logging in 10 zillion times to bring resources back when you need thousands of pieces of adamant or granite or whatever. You can only grab a stack of 100. And so I do have the add-on enabled at the moment for large stacks, which you can see in the arrows and the food that I pre-made from my world. Now, yeah, for those of you that are purists, they'll be like, oh, you used an add-on. I don't use an add-on for stability or to really, cheat at the game. And when I play, I turn them off. But logging in back and forth 100 times is not my idea of fun. All right, so this is the brewery. There are 7 medium brew tanks. There's 2 over there, 1 here, and then 7 of the little ones, 3, and then 4 and 2 there. And I did have a rope ladder here for a time, and I didn't like the way it looked. I was really hoping they'd build wooden ladders like you see out in the mines, but until we have them, I'm going to cheat and use this ladder. Now, Spider-Man and Exile on Discord have opened my eyes to the usefulness of wood. I had a horrible time when the game first came out, and I've been playing since it launched to the public, using wood. It just did not seem very stable to me. But I have to admit, after watching their videos, and I don't know if a change went into the first patch, it is much better. And I've now got, after looking at the pictures and talking to a few of them, so thank you both. It works. I'm starting to use the large balconies and the wood top trusses. They work great. In fact, I'll show you the I did go back to my world and disassemble some of my other base's planters, farm patches, and brought over some seeds and seedlings. But all of this is a balcony, the large balcony, and some of the trusses and the wood pillars. Though I have this graphic anomaly with the balconies. It's like they're broken off. They're missing a cross beam. I don't know why. It seems a little odd, but hopefully that's just a glitch. It seems very stable. So this is a 2-tier farm. I have enough room here for another couple pillars all the way out, so I'll have a line here and a line there. Plenty of space for farming, and I think it looks nice. So here's a wooden staircase I just planted. And of course, I went and did a quick resource world, ran to the Elven sector, cut down every tree there was, because I wanted the Elven wood. Anyway, so this turned out really nice. Now I did bring my own sunstone, because obviously we're nowhere near sunstone for the sun lamps. I didn't realize how much I would miss beer and having some of the fineries, since this is the 5th time I've gone through the game, this time with my sister. And this is the mushroom. I did change this front way. I added a 2nd floor to the gatehouse, and I used some of the sloped to put a little roof on it. And this is where my mushroom farm is. I don't know if it's big enough, or maybe I'll move it, but it's there now. On the brewery, I do plan on putting in the wood paneling, but I wanted to leave it for right now since I have to refilm this to show what you can do without having the end game materials. Now, you'll notice the floor up here is contiguous. There are little ripples in it. There's always, it doesn't seem to matter, but I also lit up, this is an empty room. Probably decorate this as well. I have 2 crafting areas. I always like 2 crafting areas because when there are multiple people on, you seem to butt heads. And I have 4 of the mills. I'll give you a quick tour of my room. I brought a few of my things from the other, and I'll show you the armor that I built here. Oh, looks like I forgot to eat my meal. But Plenty of space. Haven't figured out if I'm going to put a roof on this area yet. There's no need for another floor, really. I've gotten much more efficient and compact over the use of space as I've done this like 7-8 times now. And I loaded up my sister's room with her stuff. I did go around all our camps and bring in all of our materials. Here's the second crafting area and another empty room. I'll eventually figure out what to do with those rooms. I think my son might be joining us, so he'll have a dwarf, possibly my son-in-law. Alright, so I did decide to go with the dual hearts. You don't have to, it's an aesthetic thing. I like the fact that you can see it from both directions. But there's dual grills, dual stoves, and of course a small baking area because I do bake quite a bit. Put up a little railing. Haven't finished doing all of those additions yet. Give you a tour of the downstairs. Obviously there's the beginning area where the stone is and the repair and the memorial, which you've seen, and then of course the forge. Now I did put in the large Kudzel forge. I also put in 2 Ufan furnaces and 6 of the small furnaces. We don't have the salt baths yet, but I will place them down here once we do over here in the corner. We got some bellows, so everything you need to craft. Plenty of space here to add more. Now there is storage. Someone online said that pallets take a while if you want to craft, if you have too many pallets, but I use the pallets as markers. So the number, I use 1 pallet when I can to hold the material, and right above it I put the boxes. And they're not wrong. I'll show you. Well, that one came up pretty quick. Why did it do that? Alright, here we go. I hadn't used this one recently. I'm wiggling the mouse, so I'm locked. I know it's working. It must be indexing everything around. And it didn't work. Let's try that again. It's definitely a bug. I put in a ticket for it. It's a shame because the pallets now hold a reasonable amount of material. They look nice and you can use them as markers since you can't put just anything on a plaque, which is another feature request I know a bunch of people have made. There you go. That is an inordinate amount of time. Anyway, hope they fixed that. So I did bring a small amount of all the materials with me from my world, even the ones we haven't found here yet, because I wanted to open up those things, those extra pieces. And so every time we overflow one of these, I make a box and we put the rest in there. I've done a little bit of smelting, and of course some of this I brought with me. And then this is storage for everything else. This is where the leather goes, the cloth, the gems, the food, all of that. And so when you arrive, at the stone, you can see the marker. You know that that's where storage and your housing is. Drop off all your stuff. Go through here, drop off anything you need to. And then you can go right back up the stairs into your room. The rooms do have evening ale. You do have your hop goblet lager for the morning. Sounds like I left my compressor on. Or you can go over here, grab yourself a brew, meet up with your friend dwarves, have a meal. Okay, so the floors are done. The front gatehouse, gave you a general tour, showed you the double stairs. Duel with Hearts. Told you about the add-on I like when you need to carry a large amount of material. So on Reddit, there was a person complaining about things not linking up, and I want to tell you all about a discovery I had while playing with my sister. So we were both building, and when we tried to connect the pieces, they wouldn't connect. It was always red, and it was very frustrating. Each of us could build off of the points we started building, but we couldn't connect anything. And so we shared screens on Discord, and it was apparent that because we had started in two different areas and we did not establish a floor first, that there were two different grids, and they would not connect. They were significantly off. So using Discord, we shared screen, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, well, the dots aren't on the same place on the objects when we look at them. So something is broken. And then I realized, without setting that floor down first and establishing one single grid over the area, because we just started laying down walls and things separately, they would not connect. There were two grids in play, which is one of the reasons why I thought everyone understood this. I guess not. So just generally, as an FYI, when you put down your first object, you establish the center point for your grid. And as I said before, the grid's actually in 3 dimensions, not just on flat planar surfaces. And so, though that's all we get to see. So if you're working with other people, or you yourself are building, if you start in 2 different areas without establishing that floor first, when you connect things, they will turn red and fall down, because it cannot figure out what to snap to, because there are 2 grids in play. You'll notice when I did this, I laid down the floor, then I did the walls, and they were based on the first walls connecting to the floor. And then I did all the way around the room with the walls. And then I started from the floor, I did the stairs on each side, and then above that I did, from the stairs, the adamant barricades, or barriers, or whatever they're called, to make that second very stable floor. So everything was based on the same grid, which is why sometimes if you're fighting with something, trying to get it to stick, and it just happens to stick, and then you can't build any more from it, it's because you found a way to wedge it in between the click points now, or the snap points. Unfortunately, I think the environment sometimes around the room, like the pillars and the outside walls, have a different grid. And it's not the grid that you click to. I don't know if that's good or bad. The grid system would mean we don't truly have free range building, but they want to give you that starting point for free range building, and the two seem to conflict to me. I'm not sure that the designs, or maybe that's a bug, I don't know. Anyway, for those of you that have ever encountered something like that, that's probably why. All right. Well, I'm going to go back and put in some of the fancier woodwork and stuff like that, and I'll try to close out the video. So hopefully this pause for a few minutes while I added some detail actually works this time. So I did add a little bit of detail, added some railings. Now those are easy to do. Oh, I missed a small spot. But the railings, I put up railings. But I came in here and I did the wood paneling. Much more pub, brewery type feel. Now, against the adamant walls, they do stick out, so they do absorb some space. But I think it's well worth it. In fact, if you look at the design of several of the buildings that are already in the game, they use layers quite a bit, actually. So I did change a couple of the bedrooms around. I added detail to the outside here, and then I put in some wood paneling and detail on the inside as well. Still don't know if I'm going to cap off the rooms. I think I kind of like it the way it is. Though I might take the walls all the way up to the ceiling, or at least as high as I can. Oh, I got to put a couple torches back up in here. It's a little too dark. Anyway, just wanted to cap it off. This build is done for now. I'll see how my sister wants to decorate her room. But that's it. That's how it takes. I think I spent about another hour, 8 hours total. Easily done. I'm still within the 3,000 adamant and 4,000 granite that I originally started with, so that worked out. I even have some downstairs in storage extra. Not a lot, but this turned out very well. Very stable. Again, reloaded many times. I will put that one piece of missing railing on there now. And when I get the King's Brew, the 4 will go in. It'll look fantastic. Probably put a wooden railing around a little bit. The last one I did used a lot more wood. This one's a lot more stable. I still on that one occasionally have a piece of wood popping off or not in alignment on load. Well, I hope you all enjoyed.